This is A Flight of Southern Witches, a podcast by two Australian witches talking to other Southern Hemisphere witches about what witchcraft looks like and feels like in our part of the world, and what it means to be a Southern Hemisphere witch.
Well met, friends. You can call me Mel. I'm a Wiccan who lives in Central Australia. I first learnt about witchcraft in the mid 90s and have dabbled in a lot of different things since, but always come back to Wicca.
And hello there, I'm Gil. I'm an Australian witch living on the east coast of Australia. I started my witchcraft journey back in the 1990s doing elemental magic and divination. We started this podcast as podcast listeners because 99.9% of witchcraft podcasts are Northern Hemisphere focused. And down in the Southern Hemisphere, it's not just the water that rotates the other way.
Welcome, everyone. Today we are talking to Adrienne from Spiral Dance, as you may know her, singer, beautiful vocalist, songstress, and hopefully she's going to give us insight into Druidry, I believe, and just her path to paganism and how she finds her way through it. So come along for the journey.
Hi, Adrienne. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Gil.
I'm going to start off with I'll start off with the first question.
Okay.
How would you describe yourself if you had to give your practice a label?
Labels, hey. I follow the path of Druidry. I'm in my ovate studies with Obod. So that's kind of where I am at the moment. But I'm an animist. I would call myself a green pagan. It's been a long journey. I've been on this journey since about 1984. So I've sort of dabbled in lots and lots of things, but it was kind of Druidry that ended up speaking to me in the end. And I've been a member of OWOD now for about 14 years. So yeah, so that's where I am now. Yeah.
Did you ever jump into ADF stuff, or
no,
always just OBOD?
No, I started off, I was always interested. I worked many years ago with a group of women, probably back in the early mid 2000s, and we called ourselves Celtic pagans, for want of a better word. And we kind of drew a lot of stuff from various traditions, but for me, it was always going back to the Druid path. And I initially enrolled in BDO, and that was because when I first started, there was no internet or anything.
Right.
When I first started my journey. And when I first started looking, I was looking at the BDO stuff, but Obod spoke to me, and then the connection with Dave the Bard and Kerry through music, basically. So my path has kind of gone along side by side with paganism and music, but I'll get into that later on when we talk about that sort of stuff. So, but that's where I am at the moment, and I feel that is right for me. And Druidry, it enabled me to connect with being here in Australia. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. So
yeah. Was there any particular thing that drew you to the path? Like, did you see a deer cross the road and be like, that's the thing? Like, what was it that drew you into to paganism and Druidry in the first place?
Well, I think as a kid, when I was, in my very early teens, and I come from Irish and English background. My father's Irish, my mother's English, and they immigrated to Australia in the 1940s. So I'm first generation Australian. So my dad read the tea leaves, and my Irish grandmother, read the tea leaves. So, and even though I grew up in a very kind of not strict Irish Catholic family, but that was there. But they were always very open to, like, I had an Ouija board when I was in my, I was very much into spooky, anything, a little bit occult. My dad had a Rider-Waite tarot deck when I was quite young. Yeah, but that was kind of just before my teens. And then my teens came up, and I kind of, as we all, I think a lot of us go through this, don't we? We're kind of drawn to those occult things when we're younger, and we can't put our finger on quite what it is, but we know we're slightly different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
We don't fit in the mainstream.
Yeah,
we're not. We don't fit quite.
It is a real transition period.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a kid, I loved anything to do with ghosts or, anything like that. It just grabbed my imagination.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
going into my later teens, I knew I had to find, I was looking for something, but I never really quite knew what it was until I got into my late teens, probably early 20s.
Right. Yeah. It
So
didn't
that
have a
was,
name.
yeah, it didn't have a name, but I knew I was looking for something, and none of my friends at the time kind of clicked with that. And I wasn't a loner, but I was a little bit of a loner. Like,
Mm.
yeah, I knew I was always slightly a little bit different than
Yeah.
the norm in high school,
Yeah. Yeah.
as you
Totally.
probably were as well. We all were, and that's why we're where we're at today, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so during your practice and moving through different sort of different styles, what's that brought to your life? Like, what lessons have you learnt from that?
Oh gosh. Well, it's been a very long journey. One of the things, I guess, that has made me appreciate where I'm at now is getting to know the cycle of life through the seasons. So that was a very important thing to me. And I know we all kind of follow that wheel of the year, but actually living within that wheel of the year and experiencing it in this land where we are and what it means to us today. So that was something that where I'm at now that led me there, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like that's also been reflected in your music as well?
Yeah, yeah, very much so. So, and I often wonder what came first. Did the music lead me to paganism, or did paganism lead me to playing the music I play? They're very,
Right.
very, very connected.
Mhm.
And the customs and traditions of my ancestors' lands, that started me on that journey as well. That was a very, very important part of my journey that got me traveling along that pathway.
Mm. Yeah. So you lived in the UK for a little while, didn't you?
Yeah. So what happened was in the mid 80s, and I was kind of looking for something, reaching out for something. I wasn't quite sure, and I read a couple. We all read books, don't we? It's always
Yeah.
it was books, and there were three things that hit me in my late teens, early 20s, and one was a book called Earth Rights by Colin and Janet Board,
Yeah.
which was about the customs and traditions of Great Britain, basically, and another book called the Occult Guide to Britain by a guy called John Woolcock, I think his name was. I read that when I was probably about 20,
Mm-hmm.
and that was about visiting, doing this journey through Great Britain and all those calendar customs and magic that kind of happens, which just sent me reeling. I was like,
So
and
many things to see.
yeah, like I need to experience these things, and
Right.
it was so exciting. And then the third book that really turned me, and unfortunately now the author is you know who I'm going to say, don't you? It was The Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
And that book turned a lot of people, that was like boom,
Yeah.
boom,
Yeah.
and that was, I think I was about 22 I think, when was that published? I was about 22, I think, when I read that book in the 80s. So those three books just made me think, I just have to go and experience, I have to go and find this stuff. I have to do it. And I still didn't quite know what that meant to me in my heart, but I knew I had to go and find that and experience those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was living in Hobart at the time, just not long after this, with two other friends. Tasmania,
Beautiful. I
some
mean,
amazing stuff happens down there.
everyone
With,
loves Tassie.
yeah, yeah, with two other women who were very close friends, and we were just starting to experiment. And in those days there was no internet, and I'm
Yeah.
talking 1986, 87. There was no internet. There was certainly no esoteric bookshops in Tasmania at the time. So we kind of had to find our own way, you know. And we met when we went. I moved down to Tasmania, and I started a Morris side down there with these girls, and called the Jolly Hatters Morris, which is still
Mm-hmm.
going. And we met a couple there that came out from the UK, from Hastings in East Sussex in Britain, who had danced Morris in England, and they joined. We connected down in Hobart, and they joined the Morris side. And from there, we started having lots of discussions about customs and traditions and um, witches and what was happening in Sussex and East and West Sussex.
And you were getting more and more sucked in.
I was absolutely, absolutely. And I just knew I had to go and look at this stuff and just dancing Morris here in Australia. And I was also singing in a folk band and singing in folk sessions and playing in music sessions at that stage in folk sessions in pubs. So I knew I wanted to go and just go on a journey. So in 1989, I decided to jump on a plane and to go stay with my friends who lived in Hastings in East Sussex.
That's
And
fantastic.
we started, and that's when the journey started from there. So yeah, so I arrived in Great Britain in 1989, and with the plan of only staying like 6 months, I ended up staying for a couple of years. And one of
So
the
you're already
first
singing
things,
at that point though. So the
yeah,
music
I
was
was, yeah.
already sort of
Yep. I was singing. I was singing in a couple of folk bands at that stage in Tasmania. I'd been singing here in Adelaide, but I kind of hadn't. I was just singing folk stuff, and I certainly wasn't writing songs then.
right.
It's really interesting. So
The muses hadn't hit yet.
no, they hadn't. No, and a couple of really powerful things happened to me in the first 6 months I was there in Britain. And one of the first things that happened was I'd only been in Sussex like a week. And I remember driving from Hastings to Lewis and just turning right after Eastbourne and going along and seeing this giant hill figure, this guy holding these at a place called Wilmington. And I was like, what is that? And of course, it was the Long Man of Wilmington.
Yeah, right.
Man of Windover Hill, which is really interesting. So there's more story to that many, many, many years down the track, my connection with the Bard. The other thing that happened while I was there, lots of really interesting connections happened while I was in Great Britain. But back to the singing thing, I remember going to the Towersey Folk Festival, which is in, I think, September-ish in the Midlands in Great Britain. And at that stage, I was finding these things. I was getting on my path and meeting people and experiencing, going along and looking at spending every weekend seeing customs and traditions like Jack in the Green and giants and well dressings, and it was just amazing.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like, it was so amazing. And I kept thinking the whole time, how am I going to go home to Australia after this? How do I do this? But I was at Towersey Folk Festival, and I saw a guy called Roy Bailey was his name. He was a solo performer, a singer, songwriter, but he also sang a lot of covers. And he did a song called Burning Times.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, who knew that you could sing songs about your spiritual path?
Yeah, right.
I know there's a lot of controversy over that song, because it's historically incorrect. However, the feeling, everything behind it just spoke to me, like, the chants of the goddess in it and the whole feeling behind it. And so, yeah, that was just like a big kick up the arse to me. And it was like, now you know where you're going with your music. So the two paths were kind of working side by side. So,
interesting. Yeah. I wonder if you ever would have still done it had you not been at that point to see him sing that song.
Yeah, I don't know, Mel.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting, but yeah, it was like an epiphany. That it was like, yeah.
And it also kind of sounds a little bit like the bardic journey as well, of learning about the base of music, and then
indeed, yeah. And the muses slowly saying, "Come on, you're there." Hey, yeah. So
we're just going to say, witchcraft is a practice of, covering your pagan and druid and everything. But what is that practice for you in a day-to-day sort of thing? Do you do stuff actively every day that's witchcraft, druidry, or do you just live life?
It's interesting, like the whole day-to-day thing. I think for me, that the thing with the path of Druidry, and also the path that I've been on for many years, is the cycle of the year, basically. So it's not so much a daily practice for me, but it's a seasonal, it's a seasonal everyday practice. So I guess it's that thing like, I speak to a lot of people and they just say, how do you do this stuff? And I just sort of say, well, I live it. I live it. There's the seasons every time. Like at the moment, it's that thing about, as I said before, being in touch with the seasons and what's happening in the sky at night. Like we're heading towards full moon.
Yeah.
It's just living that day-to-day stuff. And I think the more traditions that we start for ourselves, whether they be within our community or our grove or our coven or whatever it is, they become that seasonal moving forward, don't they? And moving on
that's
in life.
right.
Like, yeah. So you probably do it with your covens, or like with my grove. Like we're constantly planning that, what we're going to do next and how do we celebrate that. And that, to me, that comes into everyday life as well, whether it's buying food, cooking,
Yeah.
what we do every day. So rather than a daily practice, I mean, I wish I could say I get up every morning and I salute the sun and stuff. I work full time. I'm too knackered.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that's a constant that we've discovered, is that it's
yeah.
to have the daily practice as a thought, but none of us do it.
Yeah. And I wish,
Yeah.
maybe when I retire, maybe I'll do that.
Yeah.
But
I
not.
probably still wouldn't.
Yeah, I think it's just living. It's living the path,
Yeah.
and what the path we're on. I think it's important that we live that, and it is a real path, and it's suitable for our life, and it works with us. It's not romantic stuff or stuff you put. What am I trying to say? We can read lots of books and it can all be there, but I think we have to live within it. We've got to live in the moment of it, and whether that's we go out there, like for example, just before when the last full moon, and I was out in my garden. And Mel, you've been to my place, and I was out the back, and the moon, she was rising over there, and you could just see Orion coming up. And I was out
Beautiful.
moon bathing, laughing with my husband, going, "Oh, I think I feel like Morticia doing a bit of moon bathing," And we're out there, and the hair in the moon, he was so clear. It was just the most beautiful
Yeah.
night. So I think when we do that, it's just appreciate. At the moment, Orion's really high in the sky here.
Yeah.
Seven sisters are down. So I know the time of year we are here, because I know in a few months' time that will all get lower and
Yeah.
the Southern Cross will become higher. And so I think it's just a matter of just living in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish one of the things that I miss from living, because I used to live sort of country Vic, and we moved a while ago, but I really miss the stars at nighttime
Sure,
because of
yeah,
the light pollution in these big cities. It's
indeed.
just really disappointing to go outside and all you can see are like the planets and maybe a star here and there. And it's
I
like,
know. Yeah, you've got
I
to
wish
find
we
that
had
right.
more.
You've got to find that right dark sky place, don't you?
Yeah.
Look at it.
Yeah.
And there are places here in South Australia, Sudan and places like that. There's a
Yeah.
number of places that do. They have the dark night sky places you can go to.
Yeah.
I think
Manham's only like 40 minutes from here. And that's because I've looked it up. There apparently Manham is one of the actual darkest skies that has been
that's right.
recorded.
Yeah,
So
there's actually a place up there you can go. I went there one night to see a eclipse. When I got there, it was all overcast, so I missed out.
that's the
It's
problem
always
with
the
all this
way.
night
Same
sky
with the
stuff.
auroras. Every
Yeah.
time there's
Every time it's been cloudy.
I haven't seen one, and I see
I
all
know.
these people's amazing photos on Facebook. I'm like, oh, I really want to see that, but no, I haven't seen one yet.
No, I've
it's
gone
all the
outside every
Tasmanian.
single time.
We'll get our turn, Mel. It will come. Our turn is coming.
Yeah, I think if we move to Tasmania, maybe.
Well, indeed. Yeah.
So you were also talking about enjoying that green witchery. Do you spend a lot of time outside or in your
Yeah,
garden?
yeah.
Like, does
Oh,
that
look, I
also
tell you
fill
what,
you?
I'm probably a bit of a brown thumb, really. I'm not a great gardener, but I do love walking, and I don't do big hikes, but I do a lot of walking. Um, I love my little patch here where I live in the Adelaide Hills. I live in a very, very beautiful place, and I tend to nurture my square patch, if you like. It's a regular thing. I'm out on the veranda in the nice weather all the time, with the bird. I feed all the birds. We've got lots of lorikeets and parakeets and
Mm.
rainbows and galahs that come in. So I'm very blessed like that, with our magpie community. I've got beautiful walks around here. I'm part of the Hyson Trail here, so I love doing that. When I first started off in the early days, I mean, of course, Scott Cunningham is the name, isn't it? We
Yeah,
all
of course.
Scott Cunningham. And one of my first books I actually bought when I came back to Adelaide, there was one esoteric bookshop in Adelaide called the Esoteric Bookshop, which was up on King William Road, way
Mhm.
up by where Trims was up there. And I remember going in there and I bought my first magical herbal book by Scott Cunningham, because that was really, let's face it, that stuff was really accessible for everyone
Yeah.
on the beginning of their journey, because everyone had access to herbs, not all of them, but it was beautiful because you could get this book and go,
Oh, I
oh,
can make things.
I can do that. I can make a tea from that, or I can grow that, or I can have a go at doing the spells from that.
Yeah.
So that was really lovely. I really, really enjoyed those early days. And I think that was a lovely start. And so many of us did that.
Yeah.
Um, and I was also a little bit, when I was younger, I was also a little bit intrigued with folk, the whole folk magic thing, that intrigued me a little bit, people just living on the land, basically, in Great Britain, living on the land. And a lot of them just went to church anyway, but they were still doing
Yeah.
these poppets and various things because that's what their mother had done, or
Yeah.
whatever. So I love that. I really dig that. And the first time I went to the Museum of Witchcraft in Boscastle, there was loads of that stuff. It was really super interesting, and I really love that. And I think that's something we can all do anyway. We can just go out
Yeah.
into nature and just feel, because sometimes I think there is no right or wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's just a matter of feeling your way through that stuff, I think.
Yeah. Have you watched any of Dr. Alexander Cummins' like cunning folk stuff?
No, I haven't. No.
He's actually got some really good, occasionally have sales and stuff like that. Because I think it's a bit expensive for us Aussies with the conversions of currencies, but he does a lot of talk on cunning folk and cunning magic and stuff, and there's some of them are really fantastic. So
Very cool. I'll
just
have a
keep
look.
your eye out for them.
Yeah, yeah, I will do. Yeah,
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 because he does a lot of like it's a lot of, Great Britain centric UK stuff of
yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it, for us all, because of our ancestral background, that stuff is very, very important, I think, and it's just how we adapt a lot of that for this land here.
yeah,
That was part of the journey and that's why Druidry helped me, because I was really struggling. Like, I loved, Great Britain. That was, the land of my blood, but I had to get into the land of mud here, and the land of my ancestors, and the land of new spirits here. So that in itself is quite a journey here, I think, for all of us practicing in Australia.
yes,
Um, and I think once we kind of reach that happy medium of how we do that, it's good. But for a long time, I don't know about yourselves, but for a long time I struggled with how to do that. It was, yeah, because
Oh,
it's
I have.
not England, and it's like it's the seasonal stuff here, like, well, yourself, Mel, here in South Australia. I mean, certainly where I'm in the hills, like, we have this really hot dying time now, which is the dying time, but the rains come and then we'll have a spring, then we'll have an autumn. It's
yeah,
kind of, so
weird.
looking at those customs and traditions, how do you adjust those? So it's important to make our own sometimes, I think.
And I do find, like, I think our green is very different from the green of, of the UK and
Absolutely.
the Northern Hemisphere. Like, yeah, every time I travel, I look at the different greens and I'm just like, ours is really, I don't know, we're a little
Khaki.
bit more olive. Yeah.
But it is funny. It's where you are though. Like where I am here in the hills, like we've got so many European trees here. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of places here, like especially like Bridgewater, Mile, or Stirling, and places. It's quite English. But then you've got all and it's interesting watching that time of um, autumn, when all the European leaves come down and drop, and
it's
suddenly all
beautiful.
the eucalyptus trees, because they've had a drink, they go bing, and they all get glossy and they shine. It's really,
Yeah,
really beautiful. So yeah, Gil, I think it depends definitely where you are. I mean, I don't think I could cope living in Queensland or places like that where there was no season. I love the seasonal stuff, so that's kind of important to me. So yeah, it would be kind of weird living where you just have a wet and a dry.
yeah,
You'd have to adjust, wouldn't you? You'd have to adjust your ritual and your pagan working, how you
yeah.
would work with that stuff, I guess. Yeah.
Someone once asked on one of the Facebook groups, what do the people at the equator do? Like if they live on the equator, what way do they go? And I
Yeah,
thought that is such an interesting question because I don't have the answer because I don't live on the equator, but like, do you just like, I'm just going to go northern this week and tomorrow we're going to be on the southern and,
yeah.
you can pick and choose, but it would be interesting to see
I
what the
guess it
differences are.
would depend on what their practices are too, I
Well, of
guess.
course, yeah, but it was just an interesting question.
That's the thing here in Australia. I mean, I know there are people that embrace the Northern Hemisphere stuff, but when it's the Northern Hemisphere time, which, and I'm not knocking that, but I don't get how that could be. Do you know what I mean? Like doing, Yule in
Yeah,
Somerset.
it makes no sense.
No, but I know some people do, and I guess they're tuning into the energies of what's happening in the Northern Hemisphere, I suppose. And there's things like, I guess, don't get me started on Halloween. I'm not even going to go there, but um, that time, or that could be controversial. You might have to chop that right out.
Yeah, that could be controversial, Halloween.
Indeed,
I love Halloween.
I know, right? And I know, and I think that to me now is, and I have to say, the whole thing with Samhain, which we'll talk about in a minute, we'll get, and because Gil said something in one of her interviews about Samhain, I want to, and which I connected with you saying it, but for me, that time of the year, or Hallows, or Samhain, or when the veil is thin, ghosts don't like hot weather. I'm sorry, so. Don't even get me started on Halloween when they do it here in November. But I know it, and you know how I've come to terms with it now? I think it's another Hallmark commercial holiday, just like Christmas or Easter here is at the wrong time of year, but no one really gets what it's about because it's not about calendar, it's about commercialism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
And even this year I had a bowl of lollies. Don't tell me you'll go insane. I had a bowl of lollies. I thought,
Just in case.
but I blacked my teeth out and I put some horrible clothes on just to scare them when they knocked on the door. But and that's the deal, right? That's the deal. But
That's what I've done in years past. I scared a couple of kids. I did like crazy witch and I would like tease my hair. So it was like this big thing and I put crooked makeup on and stuff. I looked
I guess
horrific.
I guess for Joe Public, that's what it's about. But also, I know people in the pagans, they love both, and I kind of get what that is about. But I think for me, I would really like to see us pushing to embrace more at the end of April, the beginning of May. I'd like to see people push more to revere and honor what that time is really about going to graveyards and cemeteries and about honoring your ancestors, having your silent feast and get your kids doing that as well. And because it's getting dark early and the nights are closing in and the veils, you feel it. Anyway, that's my feelings on that. I don't even know how we got there. Sorry.
That's
I
right.
kind of hijacked that, didn't I? I went down
Totally
that
support
path.
that though.
I do
Yeah.
that. I kind of like I'll go
That's
off.
the entire point. What was it that Gil said in her interview that you connected with?
Well, it was about talking about it was one of the questions you asked me actually, which I know is down the list, but it was
That's right.
about what's one of your favorite festivals or
Mhm.
gatherings. And for me, I mean, I love them all, but for me, the one that speaks the most is Samhain. And I think it's because for a number of reasons. So I don't know, but here where I live in the Adelaide Hills, I you really feel the shift. I don't know if you girls
Mhm.
get that where you are, but that time of year, you really feel that shift of that autumn coming in, going into the darker time. The nights are closing in, and there's times you can actually feel that veil thin. Do you
Yeah.
know? Does that make sense?
Yep.
And it's a time that I want to do those things. I want to light the candles and remember the ancestors because it's the time of year it speaks to you. But the thing, sorry, now I'm going off the other path. Gil said something which really resonated with me, which I've thought about as well, because it's Anzac Day as well. And because it's Anzac Day, it's about remembering the dead.
Yeah.
And that's why I wish Australians would get the Halloween or the Samhain thing more because so many people honor Anzac Day. We remember it. We remember all of us have someone. We all have a connection with someone that's fallen. We all do. So I think so. When you said that, Gil, I thought yes, yes. I just love that so much because it is. It's so close to that time of Samhain, and I think it's really important.
I was always really lucky. Like I lived in Canberra for 10 years. So getting up for the dawn service at the Australian War Memorial and just having everyone around and that sense of the solemn remembrance and like really that honor for those who'd passed, but also, as you were saying before, that shift of like Anzac was always when you would get all your blankets out, because that was also that shift of into the cold weather. So it was, yeah, but having everyone there for a dawn service, everyone, it was a ritual. It was a beautiful ritual that
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine if it was the time of Samhain? It's the time of Samhain, but people here in Australia got that. How much more special Samhain would be, how much more special Halloween would be, because we're honoring the dead, we're going to the cemeteries, we're remembering them. Now's the time to dress up and disguise ourselves because we want to hide from the ghosts and ghouls, because we don't want to be taken across the veil. So to me, and so when you said that, I really thank you, because that is how I think as well. But I don't think I can educate all of Australia. So.
Well, and also the thing with Anzac, and especially for the Australian War Memorial with the burial, they've got the grave of the unknown soldier.
Yeah.
And so I always think that unknown soldier is kind of it's the every ancestor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the ones you don't know specifically, but you
Oh,
know,
got goosebumps. I just got a goosebump again. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
special.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. I love Samhain. It's one of my favorite. It's like pretty much
Oh,
my favorite. I would go nuts at Samhain.
Don't you reckon you feel a shift, don't you? You
Yeah.
really shift. For some reason, that one, I mean, you know, summer solstice is beautiful. You know, I think about, we have such bounty and everything's just luscious. Look at your face. What's your problem there, girl?
42 degrees is my
I
problem.
know,
Summer
I know.
solstice.
I know, but I'm talking about the season. Like, you know,
Yeah.
we have such bounty. Like you walk into the fruit and veg shops and everything is just so lush and
Yeah.
beautiful. It's that. So, and that's lovely. I really love that too. And you know, the others, but yeah, Samhain, I think that moves a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think a lot of, I do suspect, controversial opinion, I think a lot of people who consider themselves pagans or witches or whatever you want to call us, whatever box we want to be in, are the majority of people that are introverted or more happily able to sort of to bring things into themselves and sit with it. I think they're like, that seems to be the majority of people that we know. You know, there's a lot of introverts in this community, a lot of introverts versus the extroverts. And I think that probably is a factor as well. It is a time to bring into yourself and to just, you know, to rest and recoup and see where you are and what you want to do moving forward, you know, for the start of the next push kind of thing. So I think it's one of those moments in time where people, well, I like being in my little introvert cave in the underworld where, you know, it's
Yeah.
dark and
And
you
I
know,
think a lot of us, that's why we like winter, don't we? I mean, like I don't live in a freezing place. I don't live in Canberra, and I've had some cold winters in the UK. But I really look forward to that winter time when we're, you know, the nights are drawing in. You draw the curtains, light the fire,
yeah,
stuff. You know, plan your winter menus and stuff like that. And with your seasonal stuff that's coming in, and I really love that. And I love having people gathered around that fire. And we do a lot of storytelling within our grove, which is really lovely. So. Yeah, so I did winter. So I think, you know, when Samhain comes, I know that's the next thing to come, which is really great fun.
yeah, yeah.
So you were talking about just talking about your storytelling and things like that. What role does community play in your practice?
Very, very important, Gil, very important. So I guess, well, let's say, I mean, I know from a musical point of view, I know for many years Foreign Arts has been a vortex for the community and has drawn people together, which is really important. And so for me, the band has not just been about playing me performing, it's been about bringing community together. And I've seen so many people that have been doing things on their own or haven't met people. And I always make a point when new people come to gigs, I always will go and introduce myself, and I will introduce them to people, because I don't like seeing people on their own. I want people to know other people. I want people to be happy and comfortable with one another.
Yeah.
So that's from a musical side of things. I think over the years when I've been in the UK and in America, meeting community like-minded people in community has been brilliant. It's been really, really great. Now I know not everyone gets on. We know that, and it's like in any community, not everyone gets on. But I think a community, it just keeps breathing life into things. I think I know. Look, and I know a lot of people want to work solo and be on their, or they're shy, or they don't
Yeah.
feel comfortable, or they don't want to, or they have mental health issues or whatever. I totally get that. But sometimes I think if people do venture out and it's the thing when you do, I guess, like community ritual or anything like that. When people haven't done that and then suddenly they get involved and they do that, they feel like it's like they feel. I've had people say to me, "I feel like I've come home. I feel like I've come home." And I really love that. So for me, Gil, in answer to your question, I have a bit of I feel I have a service to community to keep that stuff happening. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I do think it's important, and doing things for communities, running events or whatever it is. Within our grove, we work privately within our grove, but we also do public events as well. Not a lot. We don't do a great deal. It's just a time thing, and you know what it's like with everyone being busy. You've got. Are you free on this date? Oh no.
Yeah.
That community is hard as well. So, but and when I think, I think about the early days when I was first on my path here in South Australia. The first two people I met was a guy called Trevor Kerno and his partner Helen Lyons, and the band started before I knew anyone in community. It's like it brought everyone out of the closets, out of the broom closet, so to speak. And we were playing this music, and suddenly we were meeting people, and that was quite amazing. Because I had no idea. There was no internet. That would have been in 1992, I think that was.
Yeah.
Foreign Arts Fest started playing, and we just played folk festivals because we didn't know there was other people that felt like that. Who knew? We didn't know. I knew they were in England, but I certainly didn't know, and I didn't know how to contact them. Then, of course, Tim Hartridge got in touch, Don McLeod, all these people started getting in touch, and through the music, and so from there, our journey started, and it wasn't just a journey of playing. We weren't just there to play music. It was that connection with that community in other states. I mean, that's how I know you gals, really.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, I do think as an audience, there's a real magic of everyone coming together, and especially when you know the words and everyone's singing together, like that give and take of energy.
And you know what, Gil? That is almost a ritual within itself.
Absolutely.
Times like, I've been playing and I've just seen, just the energy that comes back, and I see such joy on people's faces, and there's something quite, and this isn't an egotistical thing, but being a songwriter, which is great, lots of people write songs, pumps, we all do it, but when you're kind of playing and people are singing that back to you, it's the greatest blessing. And sometimes I go, oh, my work here is done, so beautiful. And if that's a gift that we want to give as a band, we want to give. And that's why I always say Spiral Dancers music, it doesn't belong to me or the band, it belongs to the community. That's why we do it. So, but it's just beautiful. Like even the AWC we played at recently, that was so beautiful. It was like,
it was so much fun.
I know, and I still had to poke myself at times and go, did that really happen? That's quite amazing.
It's great. And for a lot of people, that was the first time seeing you guys play.
And isn't that beautiful with the pagan community? It's changing and growing all the time. And talking about community, I have, you notice, don't you? People come and go, things change, communities fracture, communities come back together. And I've seen it. I've been on this scene now since the early 1990s, and I've seen a lot of it. There's a little bit of fracture happening here in South Australia. People, and that may well be a COVID thing. I don't know. Since COVID, things have.
I do think sometimes the Muggle life intrude, so people sort of step away to take care of their Muggle life, and then they come back.
But I love it. I love the fact there's new faces and lots of younger people coming. I know at the AWC there was a lot of younger practitioners, which was so beautiful. It was like, how fantastic.
I thought it was so amazing, like a lot of people where that was their first event. And I think for people to turn up to a first event, not know anyone, and then stay for a weekend.
That's
so brave.
That's not crazy. That's crazy. It's not brave.
and because we all know, let's face it, we're all hacks. We all know each other,
Yeah.
which is gorgeous. How lucky are we? But it's just, it's just so, it's really exciting. I get really excited, seeing these new people coming in all the
Yeah.
time. Here in South Australia, we had an open ritual for summer solstice in Milo with my grove, and it was beautiful. There was a whole stack of new young people that I didn't even know that came along, which was really fabulous.
Yeah.
It was
That's
just like,
lovely.
I had to hug them all. It was great.
You're just a hug slut.
I am a hug slut, I know.
Really. So one of the things I'm really interested to hear more about is, because you lived in the UK for quite a while, what did you feel were the differences within your practice when you had to then change it from the UK to coming back to Australia and practicing here and sort of fitting into those seasons? What did you find really difficult about that, or enjoyable, either one?
Yeah, good question. When I first came back, I was really at odds with the fact that I didn't feel like I belonged in this land. I felt like I was, first generation Australian. What right have I got to be practicing my spirituality on this land? So the first thing I started questioning, obviously, was the seasonal customs, and that was when I started. I guess that's when I sort of started looking into Druidry a bit more, because I needed to kind of come to terms with the fact that I did belong here, and I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to do that. So that was a lot of working. And I went through that thing thinking, do the gods and goddesses travel? Are they within us? Are they in our DNA? Or do they travel? Because for me, I've always had a close relationship with Bridget because of the Irish background. In fact, as my Catholic confirmation name is Bridget.
Nice.
But that whole thing about creativity and the fire and poetry and bardism and stuff like that. So that was, it was a long journey doing that, but it was about working through, once again, working through the seasons and making things relevant for what I was doing here where I was living. It wasn't just a matter of going, oh, well, it's summer solstice here, so it's winter solstice there. I think I started looking at what was happening on the land around me here. So for me, I just, when the trees start turning, when the spring comes in, it was basically about looking what was happening in the land. That was one of the first things that I did. Music helped me a lot, like writing songs and chants and stuff helped me work into those rituals. I did a lot of solo stuff at the time as well, but it was never the same as with working with a group of people.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things that struck me, I think, when I was questioning, going through that, do I belong here? Can I do that? Was I had a really good thing. I was reading some books. I had a really good thing. I thought, you know what? Okay, I was born here, but my DNA has been formed by the water that has grown the vegetables here that I've eaten. That's in my DNA. The minerals in the earth are in my DNA. So I really don't belong, even though ancestrally my ancestors of blood are Great Britain, Ireland, and England. My blood is here. My mud is here now. I'm in the mud. My DNA, it's in my DNA, and I will go back into the mud here. So it was about working with that, and also too, it was about connecting with spirits of place.
Yep.
Because for a long time, I never used to think like that. I never. It never occurred to me to actually go out there and say, is it okay for me to be here? Can I walk here? Can I? And like, we've all been to places here in Australia, whether it be close or far away, that you walk in and you feel you're being watched. There's something more there, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that a lot here opposite me on the Hyson Trail, where I walk just opposite my house through there. So it was about accepting those spirits of place and going, can I be here? I want to be here. And that might, like, if I said that to people outside, they go like, you're bonkers, but it's about spirits of place accepting you as well.
Yeah.
And so that was a bit of a journey for me, and Druidry did help me on that. And maybe when I was younger, I never really thought like that either. It was, yeah, I don't know. I think as I get older, that stuff was occurring to me more and more and becoming far more important than other things.
The way I like to think of it is the difference between a connection to country and the custodianship.
Yeah.
Like I feel, for me, I was born in the New England district where there's the massive granite boulders. And I have to admit, like when I'm traveling, like I was really nervous to move down to Canberra. And then when I drove into Canberra and saw like the big granite boulders, I was like, my God, I'm home. Like that that for me was a sense of connection to country. Like,
Yeah.
so for me, yeah, seeing those boulders, it reminded me of where I was born, and that for me was a bit of that
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
But I do think there's that separation between custodianship, which the song lines that belong to like Aboriginal communities and Aboriginal people, I don't see that I don't think we have a right to
No.
that or anything like that.
No.
But it doesn't mean we
So
can't make.
we're only here for as long as we are flesh and blood, anyway. And in the end of the day, land owns us. We'll go back to the
That's
land.
right. Exactly
Yeah,
right.
And I'm quite proud of that.
absolutely.
So
And
yeah.
that's it. I think it's really important that we do have that connection to country, because that's when we take care of country as well.
That's right. Unfortunately, we're not doing that so well. But speaking of something sort of similar, though, what's one misconception or misunderstanding about your path, particularly that if you could snap your fingers and it would be updated and corrected, what would it be?
Probably the most common thing is, like, I must admit, years and years ago, when someone said Druid to me, I immediately thought of, like, guys in white robes and running around Stonehenge going, give me the stones with long white beards. But it's girls that go, give me the stones as well now. Funny enough, when I say I sing in a pagan band, and people they don't ever question that. But when I say my path is Druidry, you can see they kind of go, oh. So I think they probably have this concept that we kind of run around in, like, and they see those ancient Druids and stuff like that, so I don't know, I can't really that there's that, but to be honest, I really don't care. I don't really need to tell anyone to change how they feel about stuff, because at the end of the day, we're all on our path, so, and what Mr. Muggle thinks, I really don't care less about. So
Yeah.
sorry, it's probably not what the answer you wanted,
No,
but
no,
it's not something
it's
I
a
really,
fair answer.
it's something I dwell on. We could all say, like, oh, we want more acceptance, or we want more of this or more that. To be honest, personally, from me, I don't care. I'm doing my stuff, and I think we're all doing our stuff, and we're doing it okay, I believe. So yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think the people who do decide to stick around, they tend to learn. They're there to learn. So yeah.
Yeah. Fair.
And a lot of them that come to things, they end up going, this is really cool. I quite like this Druidry caper. It's quite good.
So what are your hopes for the future for Druidry in Australia?
Well, I have to say, I don't think Druidry in Australia or anywhere else has any issues. I think we're doing fine. There's, OBOD is huge, video is huge, the American, everything, it's huge. It's like we're growing all the time. As we said before, there's young people coming into it all the time. However, my hopes, what I would like to see, is from a pagan musical perspective. So there's, Spiral Nut's a very old band now. We've been going since 1992. So what does that make us?
Don't say it. We know the maths. Don't say it.
I was 10 when I started the band. So, and overseas, you've got so many great pagan music, like in England, like just top of my head, Dave the Bard, Incubus Succubus, the Dolmen, in America, so many loads and loads of pagan musicians. My sadness for me is, and Paul and I have often talked about this, is there's no other pagan musicians up and coming here in Australia, no young groups. In England and America, there's lots and lots of young, and it's let's face it, a population thing too, because we have got the population. And over the years, we've had, Wendy Rule was here, but she's now in America. There was a band called, sorry?
Trader.
No, I know, Trader, yeah. Casey Stevenson, beautiful bard and singer, beautiful performer. Don't know if he performs much anymore, but there was other bands, Mortal Rose, Hearthfire, I think
Louise John Kroll.
Sorry?
Louise
John Kroll, yeah.
Yeah.
And Gabby's lot, was it Half Fire, I think?
Fire Ensemble, yeah.
Yeah, but there's nobody has come up. There's just us, and I feel really sad. And there's no one, there's no young that I know of happening in Australia, and I feel really sad because I really believe spiral arts has been a vortex for the pagan community for so many years. It's brought lots of people apart together. Lots of things happen, and I'm still going to be playing. When I've got 3 grey hairs left, and I'm on a Zimmer frame, hopefully, and I'm not far away. I would really love there to be, that would be my biggest hope, is some more pagan musicians start stepping up for the Australian pagan community.
Yeah.
Playing music for the pagan community and creating events for the pagan community. That's what I would love, but I can't see it happening. And so my challenge is out there, any of you young pagan musos, not bad, heaven's sake.
Yeah, the pagan voice coming to you.
Yeah, the pagan voice. How cool would that be? I would have such fun. Yeah, so that would be my hope, Gil. But yeah, that saddens me a lot. And I mean, I know there's lots of other stuff going on. There's loads of courses online. As I said before, when we started, there was no internet. That was a recent thing. The last 20 years or whenever.
Yeah.
But certainly, and online stuff is doable. There's so much stuff happening, online courses and Gilgat goes back to that thing with community, doesn't it? Like I know, because Pan up in Sydney, that's David Garland with the full moon. That's been happening for how long? Such a very, very, very long time.
35 years.
Yeah, which is beautiful. And that's accessible for anyone, isn't it? They can go to that and they can go and they can meet people. And let's face it, as I said before, not everybody gets on, but chances are you're going to meet someone who you do connect with and a group of people you do connect with. And when you do connect with them, then it's fabulous because suddenly, that family connection grows with your community and you suddenly it's your life changes. Like it's life changing for so many people.
Yeah.
But I guess so many young people now, this is their thing. This is their medium. It's not. It's like during COVID. I know a couple of my friends' kids. They did all their study at uni online. They didn't actually go to any.
Yeah.
3 years. They didn't go to any live classes. It was all online. So they missed out on the socialization of the bar and the going to see the bands and hanging out and meeting someone. Do you know what I mean?
And debating stuff.
Yeah.
Just being able to debate thoughts and different perspectives.
Yeah, and just being with people. So, and I think that's true for so much now within our community as well. So,
yeah,
I just want to say to people, just find your local pagan community people. Just find, and if you go along and you don't click, go along and say, hey, I'm really shy. I don't know anyone. And people will take you under their wing. We do. It's something we do. And I'm sure you all do as well. It's like,
but also there is nothing wrong with messaging the organizer of the group or whatever and saying, hey, I'm really bad at social things, or just giving people a heads up. And then they can say, well, look for me, come up and say hello, and then I'll know who you are straight off the bat. And then, do you know what I mean? Like I feel like there's this sense of, I can't really tell people that I'm really bad at social things. Whereas, no, you can. And that helps us work things out. You're more than welcome. Come and express, whatever. But yeah, just let us know, and then we can look out for you and make you feel more welcome, and it's not a problem. But
it was like your pagans in the pub. And I haven't been for a while because I've just been so flat chat. But I remember it was like a chap there that I didn't even know. It was his first time. You know who I'm talking about. And it was his first time coming along to stuff. And ever since then, he's been coming to things. And it's like, hello, it's good to see you again.
Yeah.
Like it's lovely. Like he's now a regular face in the community.
Yeah, exactly. And he gives the best hugs.
Yeah, it's important, that stuff, and I think it's important people know they can reach out, but it's not scary, and it's
not. I mean, it is for them, and that's something that that's fine. But reach out. Like, you don't have to do it publicly. You can do it privately. Message people, send them a DM or whatever. But just come to things. Be part of the community if you want to be part of it.
When you don't know what your path in, and you're starting to look or seek, or you're not sure, and no one will judge you on that if you're
we all started somewhere.
And it's so exciting. Like I remember, meeting people the first time, when I first met Trevor and people like that here in South Australia, it was so exciting. It was like I said, I was like, oh, who knew there was other people out there like me? Oh my God. You know, it was just great. It was really good. And so I think it's important for us to, you know, in the time of computers and, you know, all online stuff, I think that meeting with people, I know not everybody wants to do that, but for so many people, it's important having that
Connection.
And I do think recognizing that it is a journey, like it doesn't have to be everything at once. Because I know for me, like I started off doing like a tarot class and then moved to meditation, and it was like the people around me were doing something and I'd be, oh, that's interested, and tag along. And
Yeah,
that's how you actually build your practice, is
that's
Yeah.
right. You
Just
that
look at
journey.
stick your
like-minded
fingers
people.
in everything and just, oh, I like that. I'll
Dabble,
take that. I'll take
dabble.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So talking about pagans in the pub, what is your go-to recipe for feasting and celebrations?
Oh, don't get me started. I work seasonally, so Gil, every time we have one of our gatherings, our joy gatherings, we cook seasonally. So, say if it's Yule, that time of the year, it will involve asparagus because you know it's been the asparagus season's coming up. It'll involve asparagus. It'll involve berries, things like that. Samhain, obviously, you know everyone makes pumpkin soup, don't they? We always so I guess. I don't have one. I guess I go to our local Harndorf barn and the fruit and veg barn, and I just see what's in season,
Yeah.
and I'll cook with that. One thing I do like doing in Immock though is I do like doing the cheeses. I go a bit mad on the old cheeses. I just go to Foodland and I go a bit bonkers on cheese because I'm a bit of a cheese girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
And that's the whole cycle,
yeah.
cheeses.
I love the fact that each feast we have because we always meet in the afternoon. We do a little, we might do a Steffeth, we might do some singing, we might do some crafting, and then we'll have a ritual, and then we always have a feast afterwards. And that feast will always invite. It has to be seasonal. So yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't have a
Yeah,
real go-to
cool.
really.
Yeah. I try and do seasonal as much as possible. So when, you know, whatever Sabbath's coming up and everyone's like, oh, what are we doing for food? I'm like, okay, well, it's, you know, it's
Yeah,
whatever, it's midsummer. So bring, you know, fruits and yellow things and, you know,
yeah,
symbolism of whatever, you know, that just came
yeah.
up because I was thinking about midsummer. But yeah, like you try and work seasonally of like what's available
But
at
with
the
Nusser,
moment. And
the Nusser is corn. All the corn's out, isn't it?
yeah,
So we
yeah,
always have a big pot of corn with lots of butter.
corn, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it just depends really on the season. I think we're very lucky in this country. I think that we have such beautiful produce. You know,
yeah.
we're very lucky. So
With your songwriting,
mhm.
like, and like, it always feels like it's a part of a spell or a part of a ritual. Is that something that is that something you deliberately do, or?
Yeah, yes and no. So the songs they're written about things that speak to me on my path, obviously, myths and legends and various things. But a lot of the songs grew out of charts or a bit of spell working. So, for example, we've got a song called "Rise Up," and that was something that I used to do when I used to meet many moons ago. There was a number of women I used to meet with up here in the hills, and in those days we called ourselves Celtic pagans. We were drawing on lots of traditions. We were grabbing stuff from all over the place and putting them in our rituals. But when it was full moon, that rise up chorus, if you know the song, that was what we used for that ritual. The song Magic that I wrote many years ago, that part of that was used as a chant in a ritual. So yeah, some have definitely, yeah, but others have just come because they just pop into my head. It's like, you know, it's
Because I
just,
will say we have used some of your music in our
oh, I'm
rituals
so
as well.
pleased. What have you
Oh,
used?
Oh,
most.
I'm put on the spot. So usually, well, actually, just in Midsummer we were singing.
Weaving the Summer or something? Or no, that's Beltane, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
We did at Beltane.
We
yeah.
maypolled that one this year.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous. Oh, I'm really pleased. I'm really
Yeah.
pleased. Oh, that's
We've used Rise Up a lot in
oh,
some of our
very
full
cool.
moon
Oh,
rituals.
I'm really
Yeah.
glad then. Well, because that was the whole reason behind that song. So,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
it's
And we
lovely.
use Weaving the Summer we've used before just as like a let's dance around and get all excited and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. The Hail to the Summer. People really dig that, don't
Yes.
they?
Yeah,
It's a
Hail
good
to the
one. Yeah.
And the one with the witches are in God, my memory is bad with names.
Oh, that's quite an old one. Dark some night. Is that the
That
Dorian?
one.
Yeah, yeah.
Whichever one that one is, we send that out to our like seekers and say, it's not perfect, but learn the words to the chant. It's an easy way
Yeah.
of sort of like, we change the chant rhythm a little bit, but if you've picked up a little bit of the words from the chant there, you can sort of mumble
Yeah.
your way through the rest of it, that changes and stuff. But
We stopped doing that because a number of years ago, the family of was it Dorian Valiente and they put a disclaimer or something up saying that they didn't want people using that for various.
oh,
It was a long time ago, and because it was funny enough, we never, that was in the very early days. We got given, we were passed that, one of Chirakuno's friends passed us that, and he put the music behind it, and he said, oh, I think this would be a great Spiral Night song. We were like, yeah, so we never ever actually asked anyone's permission. Even when we recorded, we couldn't find the owners of that stage. It
oh,
would have been the heirs of
yeah.
that, and we never ever could find it. So we kind of stopped doing. But I'm really glad it's still out there. I mean, it's still, well, I can't even think which album that's on. Is that on Magic or something? I can't remember
Yeah,
what
it's
album.
on Magic. Well,
Yeah.
just contact the Valiente Foundation and like say, hey, please
Yeah.
let me do the
Well,
thing and
it'd be easy to now because there's internet and
yeah,
stuff. Of course, in those days there wasn't.
there
So
wasn't. Yeah,
relied on putting your lyrics into APRA, and if APRA couldn't find
yeah.
anything, they didn't bother, so you didn't pay a license for anything. But of course, you'd have to today.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
that's very cool that you do that. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
We've done that for a very, very long time. Yeah.
Quite a few.
I've got a very fond memory actually of an AWC many, many moons ago in Healesville, and we were playing in Bottom Room. I think Julie and Andrew may have organised that AWC.
Yeah, yeah.
We were playing, and I remember we were doing that song, and there was a great big spiral spinning around and round and round, and they were going faster and faster as we were going. It was getting hot, all crazy. And there was this poor lass on the end of this thing, and she lost her grip, and she went flying across the room and hit the wall. And, and I just couldn't look. I thought, oh God, and I think she really knocked herself out actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're at the end of a spiral dance, you can knock yourself out.
So that's my memories of the last time probably doing that song. Yeah.
Right. That's fantastic.
The last question, which we've kind of been asking everyone, is if you could tell your brand new start of your journey person something, what would it be? Like, what would be the message to yourself?
I would go back and say, when you're ever doing a ritual outside, always wear sunblock and a hat.
Solid
Very good
advice,
advice.
that one.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep, I could see that. Although most of ours are in the evening, so yeah.
Hey, moonbathing, you never know.
Look, I think if I travel back and I found myself, I think I don't know, I'd probably say just put yourself out there more and just explore more, and don't believe the first thing you're told,
Yeah.
because there's just so much out there to discover, and I think, we meet people on our journey, don't we? We take everything at face level, but there's just so much more out there, and we just need to discover that stuff for ourselves. I've had a very blessed journey, and hopefully that journey will continue for much longer. And and it's an honor knowing you all, and sharing a community with you all. We are very lucky, I think, to have each other, and
Yeah.
it's to remember those things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
guess
been wonderful.
finally, is there anything you want to shout out or plug for our listeners?
Oh, yes, I do indeed. So I'm very, very excited to announce our new album, which we just released, Summer Solstice, which is on 13 notes. It's a double album, and it's been a long time in coming, this album. A lot of the songs I wrote, probably about 5-6 years ago. We haven't actually released anything since 2017. And then, of course, COVID hit, and we all had changes in our lives, of course. And it's been a bit of a journey. But, yeah, so we're pretty excited. And So yeah, go have a listen once it's up there. It'll be on YouTube and places, and there'll be downloads available. It'll be on Spotify, but there's some beautiful songs on there and songs that reflect my journey. And yeah, I'm really pleased with it. It's got a lovely energy. Yeah, yeah.
Congratulations on finally getting it out. I know that you've been
Yeah,
working hard on it, so
yeah. And
congratulations.
been produced by David Pendragon in Canberra, who's done an amazing job with not just the spiral dance musicians on there, but a stack of other session musos came in and played on it. So
Oh,
it,
lovely.
yeah, it's kind of a different spiral dance album. This one, it's got there's a lot of more depth in this one, and yeah. Anyway, we'll see if you like it when you hear it.
For joining us.
Yeah, it's been
been awesome.
fantastic. Thank you so much for being here, Adrienne. It's been fantastic to talk to you and to hear about your journey. If anyone's got questions for Adrienne, feel free to put them in the comments because I'm sure we can convince her to come back and answer them for you if you like. Make sure you download the album when it's available or buy it, better, whichever. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Adrienne.
Thanks,
Thank
Gil.
you. Bye.
Thank you.